Shabbat.
Shabbat Shalom. I'm Rabbi Aviva Bass.
Shabbat Shalom. I'm Cantor Jake Harris. I just blessed it right before I came on, I swear.
Okay. Amen. And we are so happy to be here with you from Temple Sinai, Palm Beach County in Delray Beach, Florida. And we are here live, or you might see us recorded right now, but we are live at the moment. So we are so glad to be here with you. And we're going to start our service with the candle lighting. And I invite Cantor Jake along with, is she joining you? Cantor Rachel Slusky to please light the Shabbat candles. Oh, there she is.
And I'll be right there.
Okay.
Hi, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
All right, everyone. So now we're going to begin our service with a song, Shalom Aleichem. And so for those who may be following along in a Siddur in the Mishkan Tefillah, we're going to be able to find Shalom Aleichem right close to the beginning of the book in the Kabbalat Shabbat, page 142. So wherever you're at, I hope that you'll sing more of a pastoral melody. This is almost like a folk song, if you will, by Mr. Jeff Klepper. So, well, Jeff Klepper arranged it. It really is a folk song. Shalom Aleichem Malchei Hasharet, Malchei Hasharet, Malchei Elyon, Melech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Boechem Shalom, Malchei Hashalom, Malchei Hashalom, Malchei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Mi Melech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Sing with me now, Barchuni. Here we go. Hands. Barchuni l'shalom, Malchei Hashalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seitchem, Seitchem, let's sing, Seitchem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
We have a few announcements before we begin our service in earnest tonight. Tonight's Erev Shabbat service is sponsored by James Hurt. Our Saturday, October 31st Shabbat Torah study is sponsored by Lynn Weinstein in memory of Dr. Richard Dodds. And the following donations to the community food pantries are sponsored by Barbara and Dan Blumberg in memory of Sarah Rothman, Pearl and Mark Vogel in memory of Miriam Perlman, and Judith and Robert Shoemaker in memory of Regina Montrofsky. And one last announcement, if you can see, here we go. If you can see my neck, you can see what my announcement is. You can barely see it, I think. VOTE, 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 vote. That's this week, this Tuesday, if you have not done so already. So please vote. And now we're ready to start with the Kiddush on page 123. 123. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho Ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lemaseh bereshit ki hu yom techila lemikra kodesh zecher letziat Mitzrayim kivanu v'acharta ve'otanu Dashta mikol amim v'shabbat kodshecha ve'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. L'chaim.
L'chaim. So we're having a funny conversation. Well, I wouldn't call it funny. It was actually quite serious. Well, depends if you're into this sort of thing. Balls of ice versus squares of ice. And this is something to shout out, especially to Dick Herman. I hope Dick is watching this service right now. And he said, if you drink it neat, you don't got to worry about no ice. And I agree with you, Dick. Us Bostonians down here in Florida, we came down here because we don't want to worry about no ice. the spirit of L'chaim, the spirit of Shabbat, and the spirit of togetherness with our community who we yearn for so much, that connection with. 138, L'cha Dodi. And we're going to go ahead and sing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9, keeping up with our Temple Sinai tradition. And I hope that wherever you're at, you'll sing along this rousing Fragish L'cha Dodi. And what is Fragish? Fragish is a specific sound of the Jews. That type of crunchy sound. So you'll hear it in this L'cha Dodi, and I hope that you'll sing it as well. I'm going to slide this one down right here. 1, 2, 5, and 9. L'cha Dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. L'cha Dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad hishme'anu el hamiuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad l'shem ultiferet v'letehila. L'cha Dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. L'cha Dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki hi mekor habracha merosh mekerem nesucha sof ma'aseh b'maksheva tehila. L'cha Dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. L'cha Dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. 5. Hitoreri ki va'orech kumi ori shir daberi kvod Adonai alaych nikla. L'cha Dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. L'cha Dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Rise in body or in spirit if you're able. Oi v'shalom ateret ba'ala gam v'simcha uv'tzola toch emonei am segula. Boi chala. Sing it with me now. And L'cha Dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. L'cha Dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. All right, still risen in body or in spirit, we turn over now to the Baruch Hu, the formal call to worship. It's going to be on page 146. Now, just thinking about this for our religious school kids on Sunday. What does it mean to be called to worship? So think about that as you're risen in body and spirit. Yai dai dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam vaed. Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam vaed. Yai dai dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai. You may be seated. Now, for us as Jews together, one thing that I feel that is so important for us to think about from week to week is how are we going to make a new connection or enhance a connection that we already have with somebody. So that's something I want to work on, and I challenge you, not a challenge, oh goodness, hey, no. I encourage you to enhance a connection that you have. And I'm going to do so by being more giving of myself and also being more understanding of others who think or feel differently than me. That's challenging for me in itself to even think about that for a week. So whether or not I act on it this week or whether or not you do, that's fine. So once the evening comes, that's my time of reflection. So 148, Ma'ariv Aravim. We'll sing roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. The cycle of life, what God gave us in the beginning of the Torah, a cycle, a routine. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Borei yom balayla, golel or mipnei choshech, golel or mipnei choshech, vechoshech mipnei or. Roll into dark, roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into night. Light becomes day, day turns to night. Borei yom balayla, golel or mipnei choshech, golel or mipnei choshech, vechoshech mipnei or. El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu leolam vaed. Baruch atah Adonai hamariv aravim.
So wonderful to be back together, leading a service with Cantor Jake. We were talking earlier today and coordinating, making sure all of the technical aspects ran smoothly tonight, and hopefully they'll continue to do so. And it's just so nice. 2 weeks ago, Cantor Jake was on solo while I was away, and then this last week I was on solo while he was away. But now we're here together, and it's really wonderful. So we turn to page 150 now, and I'd like to invite you to join me to chant the Ahavat Olam. A lot of you know this, so if you know this, it's just going to be an a cappella chant. So please join me. Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Ahavta Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim otanu limadeta Al kein Adonai בשוכבנו וקומנו נשיח בחוקך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נגה יומם ולילה אהבתך תסיר ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל Amen. We turn now to page 152, and if it is your custom to rise for the Shema, please do so. Shema. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kavod Mahuto Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kavod Mahuto Le'olam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. We turn now to page 154, and if you rose, please be seated at this time. Please join me in Ve'ahavta. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ile asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and turn right now to a song of peacefulness, Hashkivenu, 160. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Shalom, Hamidenu Eloheinu shomreinu lechaim, hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, vehamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Ushmor tzeteinu Shalom, me'ata ve'ad olam. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, ve'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, ve'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Baruch atah Adonai, hapore sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. And now, for those who are able to do so, incline yourself that much more directly towards your feelings or to God, or both. That's how it works out for you. Page 166, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 165. Tefillah. Adonai sifatai tivtachu fi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sari, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chastei Avot va'imahot, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם וזורת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומדומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom, ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. V'tov beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Tasim leolam.
We've come to the time in our service when we think of those who are in need of healing in our community and in all communities of the world. So if you are thinking of someone who is now in need of such healing, please say their name aloud now. And we're going to mute the external sounds there. And so now with those people in mind, we now share the screen with all of the people of those who we are in that we know of who are in need of such healing. As we sing together the Misha Berach on page 371, if you want to look in the prayer book.
May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach imotenu Mekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
And now we continue to our Torah service. And before Jake delivers his chanting of the Torah portion, I want to give a little bracha, say a little bracha, because I've been asked, people have been missing being able to say a bracha for the reading or learning of Torah. So this is La'asok b'divrei Torah. So please join me for this bracha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. And now to Jake, who is going to teach us some words of Torah about his favorite pasuk, his favorite verse in the entire Torah. So listen up.
All right, thank you very much, Rabbi Aviva. So this week we are exploring Lech L'cha, and in addition to the verses that I'm going to be sharing from the Torah that I'm going to go ahead and read, I wanted to bring everyone's attention to another part of this parasha. And so to give a little bit of context right here, Abram, not Abraham, he's not Abraham yet, this is Abram, before his name was changed by God. So he's dealing with the king of Sodom and Gomorrah, as we know. And after they go through battles together, and this is after Abram and Sari have returned from Egypt, because there was famine, so they ventured out. And Abram said to Sarai to say that him was her brother instead of her husband, because that would save his life, and it did, and it brought misfortune and plagues for the first time around to the Egyptians. So following this, Abram, still not the first official Jew yet, right? This is the preamble. And I like to think of this verse I'm about to share, not read, but share from later in the parasha, as the moment that he defined himself as a true Jew, as the first Jew material. And this is Genesis 14, verse 21. Then the king of Sodom said to Abram, "Give me the persons and take the possessions for yourself." But Abram said to the king of Sodom, "I swear to the Lord God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, I will not take so much as a thread or a sandal strap of what is yours. You shall not say, 'It is I who made Abram rich.'" Because of who the king of Sodom was and what he represented, Abram knew that anything that he gained from him would not be altogether sincere, and it would not reflect the qualities that would later reveal to us why Abraham was Abraham and became Abraham. And it was his ability to stand up to corruption. It was his insistence on being true to God and not taking any sort of earthly bounty from somebody who was evil. In our world today, especially in our own backyard right here in America, and throughout the history of America, and I'm not saying this as an opinion, this is being a scholar of American history, of which I am somewhat, but enough to know that corruption has plagued these lands since pretty much the beginning. And if you need to know what type of corruption enters into, or what type of not altogether wholesome dealings that we have dealt with, go see the movie Thank You for Smoking. Understand that we have cigarettes legal in America. We have alcohol that is advertised on billboards. And these things are not necessarily good for humanity, but it makes people a lot of money. And they say, oh, well, you got to get a buck. All money's green, right? Absolutely not. The source of the money matters. And that's the message going into this parasha, Lech L'cha, where we have to travel to places that we don't know. We're going to be tempted to take money from people as help. And that's nothing bad. But when we start to allow ourselves to be influenced by money, that is where the real problems begin. So I encourage all of us on this Shabbat not to give in to corruption and not to support anyone who is so blatantly entrenched in corruption and has been indicted. Because what else do we have but the law and the truth? I'm a proponent of it, and I hope that together as a community we are too. So now, the Torah itself, the words in which we've gained this knowledge from, at the beginning of the parasha of Lech L'cha. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that up. Vayomer Adonai el Avram, Lech L'cha, me'aretzecha u'mimoledecha, u'mibeit avicha, el haaretz asher arecha. ואעשך לגוי גדול, ואברכך, ואגדלה שמך, והה ברכה. ואברכה מברכך, ומקללך אהור, ונברכו בך כל Mishpachot ha'adamah. The Lord said to Abram, "Go forth from your native land and from your father's house to the land that I will show you. I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you shall be a blessing, Lech L'cha. I will bless those who bless you and curse those that curse you, and all the families of the earth shall bless themselves by you."
Thank you, Jake. One of my greatest spiritual teachers in my life was Reb Zalman Schachter Shalomi, Zecher Tzadik Livracha. May his memory be for a blessing. You may have heard his name before, or maybe you were fortunate enough to study with him at some point. He was the founder of what is now known as the Jewish Renewal Movement. Reb Zalman was one of the first people who led me to a deeper understanding of Judaism and its personal meaning to myself. Beginning from the time I was in college, and then was fortunate enough to learn with him in Philadelphia when I was in rabbinical school, and then to meet with him regularly while I lived in Boulder, Colorado. He had moved there previously, when I was the co-rabbi of the Jewish Renewal Synagogue there. So I got to know him quite well. And Reb Zalman not only possessed great knowledge, he was a true Rebbe. He not only looked at someone when talking to them, he really saw them. He truly listened and heard not only what someone was saying, but also what they were not saying. He was my Rebbe and became almost like a Zaidi to me, as he was to many people. He passed away over 6 years ago in July of 2014, but I still miss him terribly. Not only for me, but for the world. He was a bright light shining whenever there was darkness and wherever there was darkness. And he brought together the past, present, and future of Judaism and the spirituality of humanity in his teachings. If we could put up the photo for a moment. I have a still shot now. You can see him with the Dalai Lama, if we are able to bring that up. There he is. So there's Reb Zalman with the beard, looking into the eyes, deeply into the eyes of His Holiness the Dalai Lama upon their meeting many years ago. And we can take that down now. Thank you so much. So he was so powerful, Reb Zalman, that whenever he walked up to a podium, a hush fell over the crowd. And I remember once when I was attending a Kala, an annual conference, Jewish Renewal Conference, and over 1,000 people were gathered in this huge room, all eating lunch. And lo and behold, Reb Zalman walked up to the stage and up to the microphone. And immediately, shh, everyone quieted down. What was the Rebbe going to say? What wisdom would he impart? And so we waited with bated breath. And he got a little closer to the microphone and he said, "Has anyone found my windbreaker, my jacket? I think I left it here somewhere." And the entire group, the entire room of 1,000 people burst out laughing because, of course, we saw him as someone who would impart wisdom with his every word. It seemed almost like he wasn't human at times. We forgot that he's someone who does laundry, who loses possessions and things like that. So if you haven't had the opportunity to learn from him, there are still teachings widely available on the internet if you look up Reb Zalman Schachter Shalomi. He was, in a word, a blessing. In our Torah portion today, in the first few verses of Parshat Lech L'cha, which we just heard Jake chant, God tells Abraham, Lech L'cha, to go forth from his native land and his father's house to the land that God will show him. God then says, I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you, and I will make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. What does God mean by you shall be a blessing? Rashi, the famous medieval commentator, quotes a midrash which interprets this to mean that God tells Abraham that until that moment, God blessed the world. But from this time forth, Abraham is given the ability to bless whomever he wished. That's one interpretation. Another opinion is that given by a compilation of commentators from the 12th to 13th centuries called Da'at Zakenim, which taught that this was a commandment to Abraham from God. You must be a blessing. According to this commentary, this meant that wherever Abraham traveled, he would be obligated to teach everyone with whom he came into contact to recognize and to bless the one true God. There are many other commentaries with many other opinions. However, the interpretation that I like best is that given by Rabbi Shalom Dov Ber of Lubavitch. He said that from the time God told Abraham to leave his home, he began a journey which was not only physical, but also spiritual. He says, Abraham there began the process of birurim, of extracting the sparks of holiness that are scattered throughout the universe and buried within material existence. He continues, by the decree of divine providence, a person wanders about in his travels to those places where the sparks that are to be extracted by him await their redemption. The cause of all causes, with a capital C, brings about the many circumstances and pretexts that bring a person to those places where his personal mission in life is to be acted out. End quote. I find this teaching to be extraordinary. First, it refers to what Lurianic Kabbalah calls tikkun olam. We talk about this a lot in Reform Judaism, but literally tikkun olam means raising the sparks in the world, raising them up and repairing the world, literally with these holy sparks. Then this commentary speaks of God as the cause of all causes, the ultimate cause, explaining that God brings us to circumstances in which our personal mission in life is to be fulfilled. In other words, that God sets forth...
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Siri was answering me. I hope you didn't hear that. Then it speaks
I'm not
of
sure I
God
understand.
as the cause of all causes, explaining that God brings us to circumstances in which our personal mission in life is to be fulfilled. In other words, God sets forth the stage, but we, through our own free will, must act upon our circumstances to fulfill our ultimate purpose in life, which each of us has. This teaching also dovetails very nicely with the title of this parsha and the idea that we see in the first verse. God tells Abraham, Lech L'cha. Now, although that's usually translated as take yourself and go, or something like that, it can also be translated as go to yourself. Lech L'cha, go to you, go to yourself. In other words, take yourself on a spiritual journey of introspection and self-reflection. We need to rid ourselves of our preconceived notions of what life should be like, those imposed on us by our society and even by our own family, to enable us to see what we need to do, our purpose in our lifetime, to recognize where we need to be, and to then shine forth with that self-knowledge to inspire others with our wisdom and compassion, to become the blessing. While my Rebbe, Reb Zalman, perhaps embodied this more than many people, we have all met people who, by their very presence, evoke a feeling of calm and serenity, of centeredness and inspiration. These may be public figures, or they just may be people we meet along the way. These people cause us to pause from our often hectic lives and to think deeply, and even to behave more in accordance with our highest values. This is a time of uncertainty in our world. We have a great deal of hectic and upsetting events occurring now at the very same time. The pandemic, this time of reckoning with systemic racism and of civil unrest arising from that, and this time of the election coming up this very week. Through all of this, each of us is called upon to be a blessing, to be the highest and best self that we can be, and to inspire others to do the same. It doesn't matter what your political party, your belief, or your stance on the issues are. Each of us can commit to actions that will help create a feeling of calm around us. Each of us can be the eye of the hurricane. The storm may swirl around us, but we remain calm. How can we do that? Instead of stoking the fires of fear and spreading angst or despair, we can refuse to share inflammatory posts on social media. We can ensure that anything that we say to others, we know to be 100% factual, which often are not on many sources, and especially social media. We can speak to others about different positive topics. This isn't everything in the world. There are other things to discuss. And we can distract friends and family when they get worked up and agitated by doing something else, watching a movie and discussing that instead, for example. We can call, FaceTime, or live stream with people we know who are alone so that they are not lonely and isolated, and we can demonstrate our compassion and concern. To close my talk tonight, I'd like to share with you an example of people who I believe to be a blessing. They demonstrate being the calm in the eye of the storm, extending compassion to all, and looking at everyone else as made in the image of God. On this Shabbat, may we all become a blessing. And so now, if this works, we're going to show the video.
And I'm Spencer Cox.
I'm Chris Peterson.
And I'm Spencer Cox. We are currently in the final days of campaigning against each other to be your next governor.
And while I think you should vote for me,
Yeah, but really you should vote for me.
there are some things we both agree on.
We can debate issues without degrading each other's character.
We can disagree without hating each other.
And win or lose in Utah, we work together.
So let's show the country that there's a better way.
My name's Chris Peterson.
And I'm Spencer Cox.
And
we approve this message.
I think that speaks for itself. Thank you. And so now we are called upon to take this upon ourselves, literally to put it on our shoulders, to take forth this message of Tikkun Olam. Aleinu is found on page 586. Aleinu, please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר ראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Sorry about that. Here we go. Let's try that again. There are stars up above, so far away we only see their light long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our lives, these are the ways we remember. At this time, we recall those whose yahrzeits, the anniversary of their passing, occurred at this time, and whose names are engraved around our main sanctuary. Jack Aaron, Randy Scott Baxt, Yetta Berg, Martin Berger, Anna Cinquimano, Joseph Cohen, Renee Martha Cohen, Harriet Colbert, Dr. Richard Dodds, Emmanuel Gruer, Edward A. Kamen, Margaret Kleinman Boone, Al Lieb, Jacob Raymond, Rose Reed, Sophie Steinberg, Nathan Straum, and Ida Weinstock. Others recalled at this time: Adrienne Arm, Jean Burko, Robert Davidoff, Isidore Goldstein, Martin Greenberg, Mary Ross Golnick, Moti Holtzman, Frida Kamian, Ida Kowitz, Estelle Lair, Anna Lubart, Regina Montrofsky, Miriam Perlman, Sarah Rothman, Scott Siegel, and Joseph Weinberger. It is also the 25th anniversary of the assassination of Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, Zichrono Livracha, may his name be for a blessing. And he was an example. He was working for peace, and he was a blessing. More recently, we recall the deaths of my uncle Howard Schloss, Manny Pastor, Bill St. John, and Bruce Wogkin. We rise now together in solidarity with mourners everywhere and in memory of those who were murdered by the Nazis during the Shoah. Page 598. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divarach yiruteh v'yamlich machuteh, v'chayechon uvyomechon, uv'chaye d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru, amen. Yehe shemei rabbah mevorach le'olam ulalmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yithalal, Shemeda Kudasha Brichu, La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechamata, da'amiran ba'ama v'imru, amen. Yehe shalom marab min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru, amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to Israel, and to all who mourn among us and in all communities everywhere. And let us all say, Amen. Please take a seat as we prepare for our closing song.
All right, so our closing song for the evening of tonight's Erev Shabbat service can be found on page 645. And now before we sing it, if you have a prayer book in front of you, this is for those who have a prayer book, and for not, you're going to get it at the end anyway, so it's all good. Get the answer, I mean. So try and think about the things we've discussed tonight and what we've explored in tonight's service. How will you be a blessing? How can I be a blessing? How can we, as a Jewish people, be blessings to the world? Be real lights that can illuminate the darkness that people have in their day-to-day, especially in the pandemic times. So while we can't really go anywhere, well, I actually went to Boston, so it's great to be back, but if you are to go on a journey, whether it be a physical journey where you go to a new place, or an emotional journey where you accept into your life beliefs that maybe before you would have had nothing to do with, but only in these modern times, through some inspiration and innovation and compassion from those around you, you're able to accept a different ideology and come together like those two governors in the race. Lech L'cha by Debbie Friedman, page 645. And a special shout out to the Shoemakers for inspiring me for this closing song. Lech L'cha, to a land that I will show you. Lech L'cha, to a place you do not know. Lech L'cha, on your journey I will bless you, and you shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lech L'cha, Lech L'cha, and I shall make your name great. Lech L'cha, and all shall praise your name. Lech L'cha, to the place that I will show you. L'shimchat chayim, l'shimchat chayim, l'shimchat chayim, Lech L'cha. chaim lechilach. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, and a shout out to my son Angelo, who helped with the audio tonight. Thank you so much. And of course, to Dave Cotton, our technical help tonight. Thank you. Shabbat shalom.